So hello from Green-Mopeds in West London. So today we're going to give you the long anticipated static review of the MQiGT EVO, and we've put it next to the current crop of 60-mile-an-hour electric motorcycles in the sort of scooter variety. So we've got the Silence S01 connected and the Horwin EK3. As I said, these are the only bikes that we currently do and that are pretty much available that go over 60 miles an hour in a scooter form. So we'll do what we normally do. We'll go around the bikes, show you some of the features and functions, and hopefully that will help you make an informed decision. So let's get to it. Okay, so I won't bother too much with the backstories of the brands, but suffice to say, why did we say highly anticipated review? Well, this bike, we're now recording this in June 2023, and this bike has actually been out for about 15 months. And back then, when the bike first came out, we actually asked our subscribers on our YouTube channel, which bike would they like us to review next? And the EVO actually came out top. It was a new model, just turned up, flagship product. In fact, NIU were claiming, or are claiming, that this bike is better than any 125cc equivalent bike, petrol or electric. So quite a bold claim. And however, it's fair to say that the EVO did suffer from a few teething troubles. You only have to look on some of the forums about the bike to know that there were some issues when it first came out. That isn't unheard of, to be honest. The TC Max over there, when that came out in 2019, within about 3 or 4 weeks, we were told to upgrade all the battery cables. So it's not unheard of that a new bike will have some things to be resolved. But anyway, it's now 15 months later and pretty much the bike is good to go. So we thought that it's now time to review it. So the three that we've got lined up: Horwin EK3, 6.2 kilowatts, EVO 6.2 kilowatts, this is maximum power, and then the Silence S01 connected, which is 9 kilowatts. You'll see some justification for the difference in price when we go around and compare them. But in terms of actual sales figures last year, the one that was sold the most was actually the S01 on the left there. There is also an upgraded version to the S01 now called the S01 Plus, which is sort of out of range from a price perspective. So we'll stick these three together. So in terms of actual sales figures, it's pretty much in order. EK3 was I think 10 or 20 bikes less than the EVO, which was 10 or 20 bikes less than the S01, something like that. Okay. So Horwin, we've talked about many times, out of China, as is NIU, although listed on the US NASDAQ exchange, and then you have Silence out of Spain. To go off around the fronts of the bikes, interestingly, both Silence and Horwin have got different front and rear wheels, okay, whereas the EVO has 14 at the front and the back. So on the Horwin, we've got 14 at the front, 14 at the front and back for the EVO, and then 15 at the front, 14 at the back for the S01. As you can see from the profile of the tyres, these are Pirellis on the S01. The profile actually is the biggest on the S01, and then the Horwin EK3, and then the EVO. So if you're worried about the wheel size and stability and potholes and all that sort of stuff, then bigger wheels, bigger tyres are typically best, but obviously not a lot in them. As they're all 125cc licenses, they've all got CBS. So as you can see here, 2 cables going in and out of the actual brake caliper, and they all have them. Okay, so that is when you squeeze the right hand lever, pressure is applied to both front and back, not ABS. There are bikes now coming with ABS, even in this sort of price bracket. Currently, the only one that we've got is that one over there, the Segway. That has got actually ABS. KFN with their F80 is now coming out with ABS. So ABS is now trickling down from the sort of higher price bikes onto these bikes, but as yet, these three are just CBS. And that's actually a mandatory requirement. All 125cc equivalent bikes have to have either ABS or CBS. Okay, looking at the front of the bike, one thing you might notice is that Horwin have got their lights up here, which means obviously as you turn your handlebars, the lights follow where you're going to, whereas the other two, they're actually built in so they will stay facing forward at all times. NIU try and make a big thing about this new lights that they've put on this bike. which says it's got good 360-degree visibility. I guess they mean vertically, not necessarily front and back. But obviously, if you have a handlebar light, then that is going to give you the best ability to see into corners. Okay. Many people like the design of the Horwin. If you put on the indicators, which do make noise, you see the front LED changes to orange on that one. As we're doing indicators, we might as well do them all. So none of them are silent. One thing I have noticed is, have a look at that. You're looking at this angle and you're turning left. There's not a lot of indicators to be seen there. That's an NIU thing. Most of them are doing that. Okay, and on the S01, okay, so this light again will change from being a light to an actual indicator. Okay, you might have just noticed that the EVO has actually turned itself off, and that is one of the things that it does. It's keyless. You only need the key to open the seat, and that is one of the features that it actually now does, is turn the bike off. Okay, so there are many interesting little quirks that say about how the EVO operates correctly, according to the manual, but there are a few things that you might notice that you think, why are they doing that? For example, if you walk away from the bike will automatically set a steering lock, which in many respects is a good thing. Personally, I'm not so sure about setting a steering lock is a good idea, because if someone is going to steal it, it doesn't take much for them to break the steering lock, and then all that happens is you've got to replace all the locks. But the more challenging thing I find with the automatic steering lock is just when you are moving it around. So here we obviously move the bikes around a lot, and every time I come to move it, if the key is nowhere near the bike, the steering lock will set as soon as I touch it. So, okay, nice feature, but practicalities of it might not be so great. Okay, anyway, so that's the sort of front of the bike. As you can see, the design, classic new design there. It's based on an MQiGT with the sort of larger frame that they had. Previously, the NIU NQi was, or MQiGT was their flagship, and this has now taken over. One of the things that you will notice as you go around the bike is actually seat height. So, although they're obviously all on their stands, the EVO is by far the highest. It's 81 centimeters. So that will, in effect, put it out of reach of some people. The EK3 is 78, and the S01 I think is 79. And on the S01, you can actually get a low seat option, which reduces that height by 3 centimeters. So if you are shorter, it might be either the EK3 or the S01 with the low seat is actually your only choice. Okay. As we go around, so here you can see, again, by far, the S01 is actually the biggest seat for 2 people. Looking at from above, you see it's quite narrow here, and on the EVO, it looks quite narrow, but it's actually quite wide when you look down it and look at the way the sort of seat splays out. Another thing to notice about the seats is that if you see here, the seat actually is usable space all the way from front to end. Okay, all of this you can sit on. On the EVO and on MQIs in general, your actual seat space stops here. All of this is essentially wasted. It's 11 centimeters. It's wasted because you can't sit on it. I wonder why they just didn't make the seat go all the way to the back and then chop it there. It would just give you more seat. Okay, and then on the EK3, you can see it's probably the smallest seat, but still usable. Okay, all of them can have racks. We've just shown you the EVO with the rack already fitted. Doesn't come with that by default, but all of them have racks. Okay, so this is a look at the dashboards on the 3 bikes. So this is the S01 monochrome. As you can see, it's already in drive. You have your different modes, and one of the things to notice about the modes on the S01 is that it goes up, up, down, down. Okay, so you cannot go from sport straight to eco without going through city, and you can't go from city down to eco if you're going up, unless you go through sport first, okay? And you have to realize that there is a delay. So for example, if I'm going along in city mode and I change here to sport, you see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then up it goes, okay? 1, 2, 3, and then down it goes, okay? So that is something about the riding style that you have to get used to on the S01. Not a problem, it's just the way they do it. On the Evo, we've got a bit of a different layout. So this is your 2 batteries here. You do actually have 3 choices of dashboard if you want to change them. Although in my experience, you usually would just stick to the one that you've picked. Here you can see it's connected. There's an app. There is an app also with the S01, but not quite as sophisticated as this. This is showing you your recent history. And then you've got your different modes and things like that. So as you scoot along, you'll see the power curve go up as you consume more power, okay? And right there, you can see your consumptions in watts per kilometre, okay? It's just stuff that you may or may not be interested in. Dashboard is fairly sort of standard. The M series now has 2 sort of enablement buttons. This one and this one have to be pressed in order to get ready. Not too sure why they decided that they needed to, but that's the way it goes. It's got cruise control, hazards, horn, etc., etc. On the EK3, a bit more of a basic layout. So you've got here your current consumption, as in amps, state of charge here, speed, trip, and all that sort of stuff. This one, you note, does make noise. And that's because it is chain driven and not hub. Okay, so here you can see, as we've got to the back end, we have a chain. Okay, so centrally mounted motor, which is not unusual. Horwin do this a lot, CR6 is the same. Centrally mounted motor with a chain. Okay, 6.2 kilowatts as we said. NIU, now this is possibly one of the reasons why there was some issues with this bike when it first came out. NIU used to make a big thing about being Bosch and Panasonic. This isn't Bosch, this is their own. They call it an NIU Series 5 or V. And possibly that is one of the reasons why they had some issues when the bike came out. Silence, it's neither Bosch or anything, it's their own make. Okay, so usually the bikes with the hub motors are the ones that accelerate quicker. Okay, but as I've said, in these 3, it would be silence for sure, and then probably the Evo, and then probably the Horwin. But top speeds, pretty much the same. Okay, so under the seats, one of the things that would be of interest to you, I'm sure, is that you get a bit of storage with the EK3, and you also get some, well, a lot with the S01. So if it's storage that you're after, then it is the S01 that wins. 2 full-face helmets in there. Okay, so that's by far the greatest amount. Okay. On the Evo, as it comes with 2 batteries by default, you have got space here, which is just enough space for the charger. Okay, the charger is quite a brick. It's the same one as the N series, although connectors are different, its rating is different, and in fact you cannot use the MQiGT charger on an Evo. They're different. Even though they look the same and it's an MQi, they are different rated. But you can get the charger underneath here, which is good. Obviously you've got the rack option, etc., etc. So while we're on batteries, let's talk about battery capacity. So on this bike, you have 2 batteries by default. On the S01, you have 1 big one. And one of the things about the S01 is that it's on wheels because it weighs 40 kilos. Okay, so you have to basically unlock it from under the seat and then it wheels out. It's got 5.1 kilowatt hours of capacity. Okay, so the Evo, on the other hand, with those 2 batteries combined, has 3.7. Okay, so 5.1 versus 3.7, quite a big difference. However, the EK3 has 1 battery at 2.8. and you can have two. So if you add in the second battery on an EK3, you've actually got the most capacity and possibly the most range on the EK3, because it's got two 72 by 40 amp hours. Okay, so two of those at 72 by 40. Okay, whereas one NIU battery, which isn't Panasonic, I'll stress again, one NIU battery is 72 by 26. Okay, so times two is 72 by 52. So you do the math, 72 by 52, that's where you get 3.7. 72 by 40 by 2 gives you 5.8, 5.6 rather. And then you've got the big 51 volt battery in there for the silence. Okay, so on paper, range would be Horwin first, S01 second, and NIU third, on paper. Okay, simply because of the maths. So that leads us on to charging time. Charging time, and you have to remember that you've either got one or two batteries. On the EK3, with one battery, it's 4.5 hours. And you can only charge one battery at a time unless you've got two chargers. Okay, so on the EK3, as you see, there's only one lead, and you plug the charger directly into there, or down to a charging port down here. Okay, but either way, you can only charge one battery at a time, only one lead. Okay, so 4.5 hours for one lead, one battery, 9 hours for two. On the Evo, you can charge both, either on or off the bike, in 5 hours, because they have a splitter that comes with the charger that enables you to actually do that. Okay, so something to bear in mind. The charger, extra charger on the EK3 is actually £275. On the S01, there is no charger. The charger is built into the battery. Okay, so you can release the battery underneath here, pull it out, or you can charge just with a standard kettle lead from underneath here. Okay, so the standard kettle lead into the back of the S01 battery. Okay, 6 to 7 hours on that one though. Okay, so charging time would be the Evo, unless you had two chargers and two batteries on the EK3. Okay, then colours are, well, interestingly, there are 9 colours for the Evo, but in the UK we only get 4. There's this matte grey, this matte black, this orange, and then a matte white. EK3 has either this gloss black, gloss red, a sort of metallic-y grey, a bit like that grey in the background there. Red, white, black, or grey on that one. And on the S01, you have sort of an electric green, which is pretty green. It's not quite as green as that, but pretty green. White, and then this black. They're all on the grant, so they all get the 2-year warranty on the bike and 3 years on the batteries. The Silence and the Horwin, and the Evo have an app, so GPS tracking. As I say, you can change the dashboard, you can start the bike remotely. On both of these things, you can open the seat remotely on both of these bikes. And then it comes to price. So in no order particularly, but the EK3 with one battery is 4,099, and with two batteries it's 5,398. Okay, whereas with the Evo it is 4,799. So what's that? £600 less, but it's also got the least range. Okay, so 5,398 for 80-mile range, and that's realistic. 4,799 for realistic 50, but 6,200 for the S01 with a 50-mile range, 55-mile range. Okay, but more power, 50% more power than the other two. Okay, so it's really a case of what you think is important. If you want storage, it's the S01. If you want range, it's the EK3. If you want a sort of good all-rounder, it would be the Evo, in my opinion. Okay, so hopefully you found it useful. If you'd like to come for a test ride, then please feel free to contact us at hello@green-mopeds.com, and thanks very much.